forgot my story. I spent 3 months like begging God to heal me every night. Every night I would just go before him and I go, God, please, please, please heal me. And still had the attractions. And then I contemplated suicide for a few months. I thought, better to kill yourself than pile, thousands of more sin on top. But I couldn't do that because I had heard a sermon when I was a little kid that if you killed yourself, you might not go to heaven because, the last act of your life was to take your life back into your own hands, and then you're dead and you can't repent, so it's hopeless. So, not necessarily good theology, but it was enough to keep me from doing it because I thought, the most important thing in my life is to go to heaven and to be with Jesus forever. So if there's even one iota of a chance that won't happen, can't go there. So then I spent 3 months begging God to take me home every night. Heart attacks run in my family. That would only be a minor miracle. I wasn't asking for much. So I would pray for that every night when I go to bed, and then I wake up every morning. And my friends had no idea what was going on. And so then I'm like, God, what can I do? I cannot live this way anymore. And so I thought, do I try another counselor? But that seems hopeless. And so finally I thought, okay, I'll try another counselor. So I researched it some more, and I found a counselor who kind of specialized in this. And so I called him, and I said, is there any hope for me? And he said there was. So I made an appointment to see him. And then when I hung up the phone, I thought, okay, God, I will make you a deal. If there is hope for me, I will do anything and everything it takes to get healing in my life. And in fact, I'm not going to work this year. I could do that at the point. I'm not going to work. I'm not going to do ministry. I'm not going to travel. I'm not going to do anything but spend time with you, working on whatever it is I need to work on. And so I did. I went to counseling every week. I went through a program called Living Waters. And God reminded me of that promise. I told him that I would do anything and everything it took a number of times when there were things I had to do that I didn't want to do. And for me, that was just great beginning. The counseling, the group was a beginning, and then I would go home and I would spend 20 hours a week, pile of snot, with God, working through all of the pain and brokenness in my life. And then walking that out every moment of my day. It was a very, very painful, intense year. But the pain I was going through that year was it was a sharper pain. Whew. It's funny, I don't live in this place normally, but when I start talking about my story, I remember. Whew. Whew. It's funny, I used to be completely emotionless. You would never know it now, huh? The pain I was in was a sharper pain that I knew was leading to the light. Whereas the pain I was before was like a downward spiral. Whew. And it was interesting because God did a lot of work in my life that year. And there was an unexpected side effect. I grew up and I loved God. And we had a relationship. But I would sometimes see people that were so in love with Jesus. I mean, they were sharing Jesus with the people on the bus, and they couldn't stop overflowing and with sharing about what God had done in their lives with other people. And I'm like, God, I love you, but I don't love you like they do. Help me love you more. And I was told, if you want to love God more, pray for that. And so I prayed for that for years. But in going through this process in my life, I needed to rely on him every moment of my day. And I brought him into all the hurt and pain in my life and let him love me there. Very painful, but I needed him every moment of my day. So, it was months going through this. And I was driving down the road, and this song comes on for the first time. It was by Mercy Me, that song, I Can Only Imagine. I started sobbing in the car driving down the freeway. I had to pull my car over to the side because I couldn't see. And then every time that song came on the radio, I had to pull my car over. I'm like, they need to give a 30-second warning for this song. This is dangerous. And I thought, God, what is going on? And God just showed me that, you know what? He used the thing that I despised the most in my life to develop a love for him that was deeper. That was deeper than I could have ever even prayed for. I don't usually get this emotional. And I know that if I hadn't had to go through this with my same-sex attractions, I wouldn't live them like I do today. Whew. I need to move on from my story. This is killing me. So, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So how did I get these attractions in my life? How does same-sex attractions develop in a guy? That's the next sheet. You know, there are different theories out there. There's a born gay theory that it's genetic, and you are born with heterosexual genes or you're born with homosexual genes. It's a very common theory out there. I don't buy into that theory. You'll see all sorts of studies that will say, you know, homosexuality is genetic, makes the front page of the papers. What you don't see is the rebuttals to those, because those aren't politically correct. In fact, there was one study that was done. It was a twin study years ago. And it was a gay activist group that had done a study of twins. And they discovered that of identical twins, 100% genetically identical twins, that if one of them had a same-sex attraction, there was a 52% chance the other one did too. That number's huge. It must be genetic. Well, what they didn't point out was 48% of them didn't. And they are 100% genetically identical. And in fact, subsequent studies that were done by secular groups, not Christian groups, just secular groups, that number is actually in the 20-some percentile. If one had a same-sex attraction, the other one did too. So 70-some percent of these genetically identical people did not share a same-sex attraction if one did. That to me would say, you know, it would be evidence it's not genetic, but you'll never see that, you know, printed anywhere. Now to know this, up to this point, there is zero evidence of that it's genetic, zero. But I also want to give a caveat. Say there is a gay gene that is proven at some point. You know, we still need to look to Scripture and go, okay, God, what do I do with my genetics? I still have to surrender them to your will and follow you in holiness. You know, after the fall, we are broken genetically. There are genetic links to alcoholism. But just because you might have that genetic propensity, it's not a license to go out and become a Skid Row alcoholic and lose your job and destroy your family. We still have to go, God, what do you say about that, and surrender our lives. There's a genetic link. They've done studies on like serial killers, and there are some genetic links to violent behavior. Anybody ever watch CSI Las Vegas? Mm-hmm. CSI Las Vegas, the head investigator at one point had this genetic sequence where he was genetically predisposed to extremely violent behavior. But he was surrendering that to what he knew was right. And he was pursuing somebody who had that same genetic behavior who was a serial killer. So just because we can be broken genetically, but that still doesn't mean that it's morally okay with God or desirable. We still have to go to Scripture and go, God, what do you say about this? And then surrender our lives underneath that. That said, I don't believe it is genetic. Now, there's a second theory out there now. It's a fetal development theory. And that theory says that all fetuses in their mother's wombs are feminine. And between the weeks of 16 and 24, androgens wash over a male baby's brain and masculinize it. And so the theory is that maybe some of these mothers had something traumatic going on in their lives, and not enough androgens wash over these baby boys' brains. And so they have same-sex attraction. It's a theory. And my take on that too is I don't see that as a genetic predetermination towards same-sex attraction. But I think if a boy is more feminine in the way he thinks and acts, that is going to change how society and everyone else interacts with him and the messages that he is sent. And that, I think, can set the framework for same-sex attraction. And then the third one, which I'll go through, is what I see in the vast majority of men, probably 90-some%, 95+%, how it develops in their stories. When I go through this with guys, they'll go, you just described my life. I'm leaving it open. You know, there's 1,000 different variations on this. This is just kind of a general skeleton. And I also have a big disclaimer. This is not to blame anybody. This is for understanding. This isn't to say someone had horrible parents and to blame someone's parents. Parents don't set out thinking, oh, I'm going to do this to my kid so he'll have same-sex attractions. Parents generally parent the best that they can. And this is just for understanding, not for blame. So when I talk about it, I like to first talk about, for guys, how does attraction to girls develop? Because that's kind of a mystery too. You just kind of hit puberty and you know you are. And then we'll compare that to see where maybe where the development goes awry a bit for same-sex attraction. So for guys who are, so for guys who are attracted to women, how does that happen? The left-hand column. Well, you know, 0 to 2, this little baby boy is all about mom, right? Dad's great, mom's got milk, give me mom. 2 to 5, that little boy discovers dad and they just click. I can see into my neighbor's yard and he has no idea. I use him as an example every day. And if you're in here, hello. So I can see into his yard and he'll be out there mowing the lawn and his little tyke has this little tiny plastic lawnmower mowing behind dad. And he's out there raking leaves. And his little boy is out there helping dad rake leaves with his little tiny plastic rake, right? He's making a mess, but he's helping dad. And on sunny days, dad's out there and he's tossing a baseball with him and you know, he's probably showering with him and wrestling with him, and what this dad's doing is he's taking this boy who's been latched onto mom and the feminine, and he's moving him over the masculine. And he's going, you're a guy like I am. You fit with me, and that's good. And that little boy's going, I like dad, I dig dad, I want to be just like dad. So now this boy hits school, and he's bonded well with dad and the stuff of guys, so he just clicks right in with the boys. In fact, he is about boys 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? He is riding his bike with boys and lighting stuff on fire with boys and blowing stuff up with boys and building forts with boys and doing sports with boys. It's boys, boys, boys. I drive by an elementary school all the time, and when school lets out, there's a whole little pod of boys that walk home together and a whole little pod of girls, right, that walk home together. They are all about their own gender. Girls, what are girls, guys? They're icky and they've got cooties, right? And there are no girls in our fort. Mom, love mom. She's taxi driver and cook, but the moment dinner's over, I am out in the cul-de-sac again with the boys. Now we guys, when we hit puberty, we are attracted to mystery. And for this boy, there is zero mystery about boys. He has shared all of his secrets with them. They've shared all of their secrets with him. He's probably seen them in the shower hundreds of times after sporting events. They are thoroughly, utterly known. There's no mystery about guys. But now there are these things with cooties called girls, and you know, they've got curves in places I don't, and that's interesting, and that's intriguing, and that's mysterious, and that's alluring. And they have these emotions that I don't understand and I never will. And that's interesting, and that's intriguing, and that's mysterious, and that's alluring. He's attracted to mystery, and for him, the mystery is girls. So now let's compare that to the right column. How does same-sex attraction often develop in guys? Zero to 2, little boy's all about mom, right? Dad's over here, mom's got milk, give me mom. 2 to 5, the little boy discovers dad, and they generally don't click. Dad can be a great guy. He can be a missionary, he can be a pastor. That's irrelevant, because the only thing that matters is how that little boy views his father, because that's his truth. Whether or not it really is true, his perception is his truth, and that's what he responds to, is his view of dad. So, dad, it can be a whole variety of different things. Common ones, mom is really, really strong in the house, dad is really passive in the house, and so the boy goes, why would I want dad's role? Mom's got the better role. Or dad's present, but emotionally disconnected. You know, he prefers to work on his projects, watch TV, he's providing for the family, but not, he has a sensitive son who wants to emotionally connect. And the boy tries to emotionally connect, doesn't get much back, so he retreats to mom, who will emotionally connect. Or maybe dad's rough and tumble, and he's got a sensitive kid, sensitive son. So dad tries to haul the boy out into the backyard to play baseball. Boy's uncoordinated, keeps getting hit with the ball. The boy hates it. He wants to stay inside and color and draw, but dad really has no interest in coloring and drawing, so they disconnect. Or maybe mom and dad aren't getting along during those early years. And the boy thinks, mom doesn't seem to like dad. If I go to dad, mom won't like me either. So I reject him to keep mom's love. Or sometimes mom and dad aren't getting along and the mom doesn't want the little boy to go to dad because she kind of keeps him for her own emotional needs, because her emotional needs aren't getting met by her husband. So she doesn't encourage him to go to dad. Whatever the reason. Or maybe dad just travels a lot. And the boy gives his heart to dad, dad leaves and breaks his heart. Dad comes back home, the boy gives his heart to dad, dad leaves, breaks his heart. And the boy doesn't understand dad has to do this for a job. The boy thinks, I can't give my heart to this guy, he's just going to continue to break my heart. So what then happens is called defensive detachment. To defend myself from further hurt from this person, I am detaching emotionally, and I'm building a little emotional wall. And I'm going to stick with mom. So now this boy hits school, and he doesn't know how to connect with boys because he hasn't connected with dad and the stuff of guys. In fact, he's been hanging around mom, so he understands girls. So he often connects better with girls. He'll have a lot of girlfriends. And he might have some guy friends, but they're not the guys he sees as being the real guys, the ones over there playing maybe football or soccer, kind of more fringe guys. And so this kid, he hits puberty, and there's not so much mystery about women. I've been hanging around mom, I've been hanging around girls all the time, I understand